Hello, this is Professor Kim Nelson with the Jewelry Design Department at the Fashion Institute of Technology. This tutorial is for jewelry ideation. It's JD139. The point of the tutorial is going to be to show the process that I follow for sketching a men's ring, as we're doing in our first homework assignment, using geometric inspiration or influence. First part of the homework was to discover what size a men's size 10.5 ring was in millimeters, the length of it. I called it the ring blank. That's easily found. This is on the internet. I located this pretty quickly tonight. There's a men's size USA. Size 10.5 is 20.2 millimeters in diameter and 63 millimeters in length. Okay. I have this drawn up in Rhino already. I'll do it again to show you the process I followed. Start by just drawing a rectangle. You could do this with your own tools at home. I happen to have a computer and I work on one, so I'll do it here. But the length of this box is going to be the 63 millimeters. And the thickness, or width of the box I should say, is going to be 10 millimeters. I would like to have a copy of this from the front view to draw. So a starting point for that will be just to have a straight line at this length that I can use. That's fine. Going to go ahead and draw the front view around the finger on the round. It'll look like so. Diameter was 20.20, so here we go. And I will, average men's ring thickness would be about 3 millimeters on the sides, around the sides of the finger. It'll be about 2 millimeters at the bottom, and it would swell up thicker on top normally. So I'm going to go ahead and move this up 1 millimeter, this outer curve. And that'll give me an automatic sort of swept or tapered front view that I can choose to follow or not. Actually, I think that's a little extreme. Maybe I'll move it 0.5 millimeter up. Doesn't really matter at this point. This is more of a sketch. Move this down, get it out of the way. Okay. I would like to reflect these thicknesses here. So I want to know what the distances are. I know this is 2.5 millimeters. So I'll go ahead and put a copy of this line 2.5 millimeters up. I know that at the sides here it's 3 millimeters. That's what I had set it to do. So I'll put a curve up 3 millimeters from there. You can see the 0.5 millimeter difference here. And then I want to know what this distance is. That distance is 3.5 millimeters, so I'll go ahead and put a copy of this curve at 3.5 millimeters. So I have the baseline, which would, this reflects the inside of the finger tube, laid out flat. First thickness is at the bottom of the finger, second thickness is at the sides of the shank, final thickness is at the top. Okay. I want to divide this the way we had done in class. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Remember, we had divided it into fourths. And then we actually went ahead and split these center sections in half again. So I'll do that here as well. I want to divide this front view around the finger in the same way. I don't much care for what's happening here. So I'll average that out so it looks more normal. There, that's better. Okay. And like we did here, I'll split this top section, these two middle segments, in half. So, alright. So this line represents this line. This is the seam, which would be the two boundaries here. I may as well draw those. That's where these two would meet as it bends around the finger and joins in the back. Also equal to these two curves, here and here. Okay. These are the midway. Those represent these. Okay. Remember, no detail between here and here is really going to be significant unless you're doing a pattern that goes all the way around, because it's the underside of the ring. This is the top half of the ring. Okay. Represented by that, and this is the most important section, where most of the detail that you'll see from the top of the ring will be located, because between here and here it already becomes quite truncated. Alright, so that's my template. I'm going to be taking this into Adobe Illustrator to handle it a little bit, and knowing I'm going to do that, it just makes it easier if I put a box around it. You'll see why. Going to export this out of here. I want it to maintain the model scale. Everything's good. Fine. Save this as well, and go into Illustrator. Okay. Going to go ahead and open the file I just made off my desktop. Okay. You'll see it's way down here. That's fine. Just drag a window around it. I'll select it, group them all together, and move them up into the paper space. You can see these lines come in very thick from Rhino. This is you don't really have any control in Rhino over the export line thickness. You have a control over how thick a line prints, but you don't have a control over how thick a line exports. So the workaround I've always used is to bring it into Illustrator, and then I just set the line thickness here, and usually 0.3 to 0.35 is fine for a template. If I was going to do a technical drawing, I'd take it down to 0.2 or 0.25. Okay? That gives me a much finer line weight. And now I'm going to bring this into Painter where I will draw on it. Export. I'm going to export it as a PDF file. Oh, sorry, a PSD file. That's a Photoshop file. Those are easily opened in Painter. Take a look at my options. I'm going to go ahead and have it flatten the image for me. Anti-alias. I want it art optimized. That means it's really nicely sampled. And that's fine. RGB because we're on a PC system. If I were on a Mac, I'd make it MWK. And then hit OK. I no longer need this. No need to save it. And open up Painter. It may already be open. Yeah. Open a new canvas in here to draw with. In class, we're going to normally work by 6 by 6 by 300, 6 inches by 6 inches by 300 pixels. When you do a final layout for presentation, you actually make it letter size so you can print it out nicely. But for studies like this, you don't want to have great big files floating around on your computers. So 6 by 6 is fine. You can make it larger if you want. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the Photoshop file off my desk. There it is. Grab that layer and paste it in. And that's pretty nice. Okay. I can smoothen it further. I'll do that by rotating this. First I'll drop it to the canvas. Going to rotate it 11 degrees. And then I'm going to rotate it again minus 11 degrees. What that does is basically shake up the pixels. And we should get a little bit softer quality. Okay? That's fine for a template. I just made it a separate layer that I can work with. I'm going to make it a gel layer, which means it's transparent, so that I can draw easily on top of it. I'm going to set a nice dark gray and white for my drawing. I'm going to pick my sketching pencil. Go ahead and set my brush size down to a reasonable level. I don't want to get too sharp for what I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to start to sketch. I want to do something that involves triangles. So I'll play with that a little bit here. Now I know if I make this detail go much beyond this center box, I'm not going to see it very clearly from the top view. I also know this is 10 millimeters wide, which is a pretty hefty ring. Okay. Gonna. Oh, didn't want to do that. really sure why I'm getting that. There we go. That's what I expected. I just want to flip this horizontally. Because I want to try and do kind of an interweaving of triangles. Something like that is fine. There are tools in Painter that make it very easy for me to make this symmetrical. I won't use those right now. I'll go ahead and come in here and draw it old school. Clean it up a little bit. I'm not going to clean it up a lot. I also have methods for drawing straight lines like a ruler very easily, but once again, I don't want to use that either. I want to keep this process as organic as possible, even though I'm working on a computer. For my purposes, that's refined enough. I'm going to do one side. I'm going to work on one side primarily here. I think I like the idea of doing what we call a bypass ring in the jewelry industry. Or at least kind of a bypass theme, where it kind of, you'll see what I mean. It's a kind of an over and under effect. When I'm doing a bypass ring, it's important that I end up under the finger here in the same place on both sides. So I'm eyeballing that to try and be a little bit careful. And what I wanted is I wanted some hollowness. I wanted an airline, a negative space in here. Now, remember that this area from here to here is from here to here. And I want this opening to end about here. Which means I actually want it to end just a little ways below this line. I want this to be kind of central, to kind of pick out the middle. It's a little up from middle right now. So once again, there are tools digitally where I could just move it, yank it around. I'm trying not to use those. I'm trying to keep it organic. And I've decided I want this part to kind of be higher and fade out, and this part to kind of tuck under it. It's okay with me that it's a little thicker here and tapers down to a little thinner at the center. Don't want to get too delicate or it stops looking like a man's ring. So I have to weigh that. Still not really centered up. Okay. This is going to have to be apparent and not real. If I do a real parting here all the way down, it's going to make for a weak ring. And it's going to have this gaping all the way down to here, which I really don't want. I've also realized I want to have a little more thickness here. So I'll let it go ahead and let this build outward. That's fine. And as I said, I want to make this actually kind of fill in. I knew I didn't want it to go below here as an opening. So I'll just kind of scallop this, and this will be a recessed area of metal in here. But it won't actually go all the way through. In fact, I may decide I want that to, if I'm going to have that scallop, instead of making it look like a trick that I'm doing to try and cover something I didn't like, maybe I'll bring it up, and instead of making it curve, make it a straight line. Keeps it with the geometric feel of the piece, and makes it look more intentional. Fine, that's good. Okay, I am going to cheat and just bring that over. And before I do, I'm going to go ahead and paint out or draw out these other portions that I had before. Do a little erasing. And trim the thickness down on this a bit. That line's just really heavy. Okay. Pick it up. Flip it around. This time, instead of just mirroring it, I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees. Put it back to a gel layer so I can see through it. I want them to line up, so I will line it up here and then bring it straight over. Going to look at this thickness and make sure they're about the same. Okay? That's fine. Yeah, that's alright. So I'll go ahead and put that down on the canvas. Put it down on the ground. See, before I do, I'm going to decide which one of these I want to be on top. I want one of these to be above the other. And I think I'll keep it the way I'd started it, and that is to keep